Alright, welcome back to economics. I'm Dr. Kling, and today's topic is substitution. That's another basic concept in economics, and we see it everywhere. Economists will sometimes divide it into two types of substitution: substitution by consumers and substitution by producers. And we can give some examples of each. I won't write them as we go. So here are some examples I thought of. For consumers, substitution would include, let's say you watch a video at home instead of going to the movies. Or last year I think Amazon said that they sold more ebooks than paper books. If you are doing online learning instead of going to a classroom, that's substitution. But it doesn't have to be all technology. You could just be deciding that, well, you're going to have potato chips instead of pretzels. So any change in consumption patterns can be thought of in terms of substitution, substituting one good for another. Producers, we try to talk more about factors of production, so we'll talk about substituting capital for labor. That's like the Industrial Revolution is often described that way, although it also can be described as substituting energy for labor. As we brought in fuels, first coal was used and then oil was used. One interesting point about that economic historian Greg Clark makes is that the labor that was first displaced by the Industrial Revolution was the horse. And in fact, as recently as 1939, when the German army, which was at the time the most modern mechanized army in the world, started World War II, they actually used horses to transport most of their supplies. So they weren't yet fully mechanized. So it took a long time to replace horses. So that's energy for labor. And then there's new capital for old. I think we're all familiar with computers becoming obsolete or cell phones becoming obsolete and people replacing them with new ones. So new capital replacing old. Mental labor replacing physical labor. So we're seeing a trend away from the people being paid by how much they can lift or how hard they can hammer, and instead being paid for their mental labor. And I'm mentioning trucks for land. That's something that took place in the middle of this century, that a lot of farmland that was located near cities was taken out of production once you could truck food in from more distant places, because the land had better use than as farmland near cities. But some of it was just even returned to wilderness, because you could grow food more efficiently at a farm and truck it in instead of having to use up relatively bad farmland near the cities. So we see all kinds of substitution going on in the economy. It's a very widespread phenomenon. And part of the job of an entrepreneur is to make decisions about substitution, either to discover ways of substituting that consumers can take advantage of, or to, as a producer, find ways of substituting that make the economy more efficient, that produce things more efficiently. So you might ask, if you're a frozen yogurt entrepreneur, you have a frozen yogurt place, should you have consumers serve themselves, or should you have an employee serve them? And that decision might be based in part on the substitution of capital for labor. That is, you can use a fancy machine to serve frozen yogurt, or you can have another server, so an additional server. And which substitution do you make? And it's these sorts of decisions that entrepreneurs are making all the time that are helping to determine how the economy operates, what types of labor get used, what types of capital, when to substitute capital for labor. And it's this phenomenon of substitution going on all the time. It's an important phenomenon in economics. And that'll be it.